The rain didn't fall gently that night. It hammered against the kitchen window of Arielle Thompson's cramped apartment like it was trying to get in, trying to reach her where she stood in the dim light, staring at nothing. She held a mug of chamomile tea between her palms, the ceramic warm against her skin. She wasn't going to drink it. She never did on nights like this, when the memories came back uninvited. Arielle was 32 now, but the words still echoed as fresh as the day they were spoken. 2 years had passed since Marcus left, but some wounds don't heal, they just learn to hurt differently. She could still see him standing in the doorway of the apartment they'd shared. The one with the good morning light. The one where she'd foolishly imagined building something permanent. "I need someone more feminine," he'd said, his duffel bag already packed at his feet. "Someone who won't question me all the time." Her hands had gone numb. Her throat had closed. She'd wanted to scream but could only whisper. "What does that even mean?" He hadn't answered. He just picked up his bag and walked past her like she was furniture he'd decided to leave behind. The door had clicked shut. That sound, God, that sound still woke her sometimes in the middle of the night. For months afterward, Arielle had dissected herself. Was she too loud? Too opinionated? Did she ask too many questions about where the money went, why he was always on his phone, why his friends treated her like she was temporary? Was she too much of something or not enough of everything else? She looked at her reflection in the dark window now, raindrops racing down the glass like tears she'd already cried and refused to cry again. "Barely enough," he'd said once during an argument, his voice sharp as a blade. "You're barely enough, Arielle." She'd believed him for longer than she should have. Desiree. Even her name sounded like something designed to make other women feel inadequate. 1 year. It had taken Marcus exactly 1 year to find her, date her, and marry her in a ceremony that flooded Arielle's social media feed, despite her best efforts to avoid it. She'd seen the photos anyway. You always do. Desiree was beautiful in that curated way. Light brown skin that seemed to glow from within, bone-straight hair cascading down her back, dressed in soft neutrals that screamed feminine energy and unbothered queen. Her Instagram was an aesthetic fever dream. Brunch photos with mimosas catching the light just right, mirror selfies in matching loungewear sets, motivational quotes about knowing your worth overlaid on pictures of morning coffee. She looked like everything Arielle supposedly wasn't. Soft where Arielle was sharp. Quiet where Arielle was questioning. Traditional where Arielle was complicated. For weeks, Arielle had tortured herself scrolling through those perfect squares, looking for the flaw that would make her feel better, searching for proof that Marcus had made a mistake. She never found it. Or rather, she found exactly what she was looking for. Confirmation that she had been the problem all along. But Arielle never hated Desiree. How could she hate someone she didn't even know? Someone who probably had no idea that the man she was building a life with had dismantled another woman to make room for her? Arielle just swallowed her pain, kept her head down, went to therapy, started a new job, tried to convince herself that healing was linear when it felt like walking through broken glass barefoot. And she watched from a distance as Marcus posted photos of them together, his arm around Desiree's waist, her head on his shoulder, both of them smiling like people who'd figured out the secret to happiness that had eluded Arielle. The comments were always the same. Black love. Goals. This is what it's supposed to look like. Nobody asked what Arielle's love had looked like. Nobody wondered if maybe, just maybe, the problem hadn't been her at all. The rain hammered harder against her window. 16 months after Marcus walked out, Arielle was finally starting to believe she might be okay. That's when everything changed. Arielle almost didn't recognize Mrs. Patterson. Marcus's mother had always been warm to her during their relationship, the kind of black matriarch who fed you too much at Sunday dinners and asked pointed questions about your intentions that were really love wearing the mask of scrutiny. But when Arielle saw her in the produce section of the grocery store on a random Thursday evening, Mrs. Patterson looked smaller somehow. Tired. The light that used to animate her face had dimmed. Arielle. Her voice cracked. "Hi, Mrs. Patterson." Arielle smiled the way you do when you run into your ex's family. Polite distance wrapped in old affection. Mrs. Patterson didn't smile back. Instead, she moved toward Arielle quickly, her cart forgotten, and pulled her into a hug that lasted too long. Arielle could feel her shaking. "Baby," Mrs. Patterson whispered against her shoulder. "Baby, I'm so sorry." Arielle pulled back, confused. Sorry? For what? Mrs. Patterson looked around the produce section like she was checking for witnesses, then gripped Arielle's arm. Can we talk? Just for a minute. They ended up sitting on a bench outside the store, the evening air thick with humidity and unspoken things. Mrs. Patterson held a bag of oranges in her lap, turning them over and over in her hands like prayer beads. That girl he married, she started, then stopped. Started again. She's not. Marcus is not happy, Arielle. Arielle felt something twist in her chest. Not satisfaction, not yet. Just a strange hollowness where she expected to feel vindication. I'm sorry to hear that, she said carefully. No, baby, you don't understand. Mrs. Patterson's voice dropped lower. She treats him like he's nothing. Like he's less than nothing. The oranges kept turning in her hands. She belittles him in front of people. His friends stop coming around because she embarrasses him, calls him stupid, tells him he's lucky she even looks at him. She takes money from their account without telling him, spends it on God knows what, then screams at him if he asks about it. Each word landed like a stone dropping into still water. Mrs. Patterson continued, her voice barely above a whisper. Last week they were at a restaurant, my cousin saw them, and she cursed him out so loud that people at other tables were staring. Called him every name but a child of God. And Marcus just sat there, taking it. Arielle couldn't speak. Her throat had closed around words that wouldn't form. Mrs. Patterson finally looked at her, and her eyes were wet. He thought you were too strong, too much, too hard to handle. You know what I think? I think you were too real. You wouldn't let him get away with his mess, so he found someone who seemed easier. Someone who looked soft. But she's not soft, Arielle whispered. No, baby. She's cruel. There's a difference. Mrs. Patterson reached over and took Arielle's hand. My son made a mistake. He thought the grass was greener somewhere else. He forgot that you were the garden, the whole damn garden, and he burned it down looking for something prettier. They sat in silence for a long moment, the parking lot lights flickering on as evening deepened into night. Does he know you're telling me this? Arielle finally asked. No. And don't you dare tell him I did. Mrs. Patterson squeezed her hand once more before standing. But I needed you to know. I needed you to know that whatever he said about you, whatever made him think he needed someone different, he was wrong. Dead wrong. And now he's paying for it. She picked up her groceries and walked back toward the store, leaving Arielle sitting on that bench with her mind spinning. Arielle drove home in a daze, Mrs. Patterson's words echoing in her head. For the first time since Marcus left, she felt something shift inside her. Not happiness at his suffering, but a quiet, powerful clarity. She hadn't been the problem. She had never been the problem. 3 months passed before Marcus reached out. It was a Monday morning, and Arielle was getting ready for work when her phone lit up with his name. She stared at it for 3 rings, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. Not the flutter of residual love, but the stutter of old wounds remembering how to ache. She let it go to voicemail. He called again that evening, and the next day, and the day after that. Finally he texted, please Arielle. I just need to talk to you. Just once. Arielle made him wait a week before she responded. Riverside Park. Saturday. 2 p.m. The park bench where they used to sit and plan their future felt like sacred ground and a graveyard all at once. Arielle arrived first, dressed simply. Jeans and a white t-shirt, her natural hair in a high puff, no makeup except a touch of lip gloss. She wasn't dressing to impress him. She was dressing like someone who no longer needed to prove anything. When Marcus walked up, she barely recognized him. He'd lost weight. Not in a healthy way, but in the way of someone who forgets to eat or can't stomach food through stress. His clothes hung loose on his frame. Dark circles carved shadows beneath his eyes. The confidence that used to radiate from him, that swagger that had first attracted her, had been replaced by something that looked like defeat. He sat down next to her without asking if he could. Thank you for meeting me, he said quietly. Arielle nodded but didn't speak. She was done making things easier for him. He stopped, rubbed his face with both hands. I don't even know where to start. The beginning usually works. Her voice was cool, measured. He flinched at the ice in her tone. I fucked up, Arielle. I fucked up so bad. His voice cracked. Desiree. She's not. Things aren't what I thought they would be. I heard. He turned to look at her sharply. From who? Does it matter? I guess not. He slumped forward, elbows on his knees. She treats me like I'm worthless. Like every breath I take annoys her. She controls everything, the money, where we go, who I can see. If I disagree with her about anything, she explodes. And I mean explodes. Screaming, throwing things, telling me I'm lucky she even married me because no one else would want me. Arielle watched a pair of ducks glide across the pond, their movements serene and unbothered. Why are you telling me this, Marcus? Because I need you to know that I was wrong. About everything. About you. Now she turned to look at him. Go on. You weren't too strong or too much or too anything. You were just real. You called me out when I was acting up. You asked questions when things didn't make sense. You wanted us to be partners, equals, and I couldn't handle that. I wanted someone who would just accept whatever I said, whatever I did. Someone soft, Arielle said flatly. I thought soft meant sweet. I thought it meant easy. But Desiree isn't soft. She's manipulative. She's mean. And I traded a woman who challenged me to be better for someone who makes me feel like I'm nothing. A tear slid down his face. He didn't wipe it away. I'm so sorry, Arielle. I'm so fucking sorry. I didn't know what I had until I lost it. Until I married someone who showed me what real disrespect looks like. Arielle let his words hang in the air between them, watching them dissipate like smoke. Inside her head, a younger version of herself was screaming, see? You were right to love him. He knows he messed up. He wants you back. But the woman she'd become in the 2 years since he left? She was calm. Grounded. Unmoved. Marcus, she said softly. I appreciate you telling me this. I do. But I need you to understand something. He looked at her with hope flickering in his red-rimmed eyes. That hope made her sad for him. What? She turned her body toward him fully, making sure he could see her face, her eyes, the absolute certainty in her expression. I'm healing. I spent the last 2 years rebuilding what you broke. I went to therapy. I learned to stop questioning my worth based on whether someone chose me. I found myself again. The woman I was before. I let your words reshape how I saw myself. I know, and I'm not finished. Her voice was kind but firm. While I'm not perfect, Marcus, I was never the problem. The problem was that you wanted a woman who would make you feel like a man without requiring you to actually be one. You wanted submission disguised as softness. You wanted someone who wouldn't hold up a mirror to your behavior. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. You're right. I know I'm right. And here's the hardest part for you to hear. There's no chance for us. Not now. Not ever. The hope died in his eyes, and she watched it go without guilt. Arielle, please. No. She stood up, and he looked up at her from the bench like a supplicant before an altar he'd desecrated. You taught me something invaluable, though you didn't mean to. You taught me that I was enough by choosing someone who treated you worse. You showed me that the problem was never my strength. It was your weakness. Your inability to appreciate a woman who showed up fully, honestly, completely. She picked up her bag. I hope you figure yourself out, Marcus. I hope you find the courage to leave a situation that's hurting you. But I'm not your redemption arc. I'm not your second chance. I'm not your proof that you can change. Then what are you? He whispered, his voice breaking. She smiled, not with cruelty, but with the serene finality of someone who'd finally put down a burden she'd carried too long. Free. I'm finally free. Arielle walked away from that bench, from that man, from that chapter of her life. The wind picked up, warm and gentle, carrying the scent of fresh-cut grass and possibility. She didn't look back. Not even once. Arielle was back in her apartment now, the one that finally felt like home. The tea she'd made earlier had gone cold, but she was smiling as she poured it down the sink and rinsed the mug. Tomorrow she'd make fresh tea. Tomorrow, she'd have another day of this life she'd built from the ruins of the one she thought she wanted. She placed the clean mug in the dish rack and caught her reflection in the dark window. The rain had stopped. The glass was clear. She thought about Marcus's words, about Desiree, about Mrs. Patterson's confession in the grocery store parking lot. She thought about the woman she used to be, the one who believed she was barely enough. And she thought about the woman she'd become. Strong without apology. Questioning without shame. Whole without validation. She wasn't wife material for him. She wasn't soft enough for him. She wasn't gentle enough for him. But she was finally everything she needed to be for herself. Arielle turned off the kitchen light and headed to bed. Ready for tomorrow. Ready for whatever came next. Ready, finally beautifully ready, to be exactly who she was. Enough. More than enough. Complete.